most discussion in India sounds to me like this famous clip.
ये प्रदर्शन क्यों कर रहे हो?
क्योंकि हमें तकलीफ है।
क्या तकलीफ है?
हमारी मांगे पूरी करो।
मांगे क्या है?
इंकलाब जिंदाबाद।
हाँ वो तो ठीक है, पर मांगे क्या है?
तानाशाही नहीं चले।
किसकी?
किसी की।
अरे मांगे तो बताओ।
अंग्रेजों भारत छोड़ो। भारत छोड़ो, भारत छोड़ो।
तो अलग फ्रॉड चल रहा है। खत्म, बाय बाय, टाटा, गुड।
Why did not people just dig into a simple Supreme Court judgment? आज सुबह भी क्या हो रहा था? Someone was tweeting that देखो PIB का release आ गया, they have gone back on their definition. People are not even willing to read a Supreme Court order now. I'm saying you disagree with the government, fine. You don't like their bills, fine. At least read the Supreme Court order. वो भी नहीं पढ़ना है. So we have to look at this Aravalli issue in another prism also. Why are people calling for a blanket ban on mining in the Aravalis? One, because it has critical earth minerals, rare earths. One, because we're also thinking of uranium now in the future. There have been studies that have confirmed uranium deposits. Of course, the processing and the mining is a different story altogether. होगा नहीं होगा वो बात की बात है. दूसरी चीज, आज आप कह रहे हो माइनिंग पे बैन लगाओ, कल आप कहोगे कोयला मत निकालो, परसों आप कहोगे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग मत करो, एमिशंस होते हैं.
वो तो तुम्हारा आरबीआई का फॉर्मर चीफ बोलता है ना, इंडिया शुड नॉट बी ए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इकोनॉमी.
Yes. For those who haven't read, Raghuram Rajan, and he co-authored that book, Breaking the Mold. I found that book appalling because for a serious economist,
पूरी बुक की ऑडियो वर्जन सुनी प्लेन की फ्लाइट में from Canada to India, one of my flights to Canada to India. पूरी बुक सुनी मैंने.
He says in that book that semiconductor industry in India is not a good idea because it's not a labor intensive industry, and that is the sentiment Rahul Gandhi also echoes. भाई तुम सप्लाई चेन तो देखो क्या चल रहा है दुनिया में 2022 से. The entire trade war, do you think trade war is about the egos of two heads of state in US and China? No.
Yes.
No.
As per them it is.
No. As per them, it is no, but it's more about rare earths. It's more about who gets the manufacturing head start. Semiconductors. Yesterday, one of the people I know had made a tweet that, even if we are manufacturing chips, which are not, say, 2 or 3 or 4, 5 nanometers, which are used in the very high-end devices, we are making stuff that will go into washing machines, into televisions, into cars, because that will supplement the manufacturing ecosystem in India. But what are you saying? No. कांग्रेस ही क्या करते ओलिगार्कीज, उनका नया फेवरेट वर्ड है, वो रशिया से इंस्पायर हो रहे हैं. Monopolies are bad. Monopolies will invest. Someone had made a very beautiful tweet. I forget his name. He said, कौन इन्वेस्ट करेगा माइनिंग में अगर अडानी नहीं करेगा या अंबानी नहीं करेगा या कोई बड़ा कॉन्ग्लोमरेट नहीं करेगा? जीतू वीडियो कॉन तो नहीं करेगा ना. नहीं उसी व्यक्ति ने ये लिखा था. आई थिंक आई डोंट रिमेंबर हु इट वाज. ही सेड जीतू वीडियो कॉन थोड़ी करेगा, जो अक्षय खन्ना का कैरेक्टर है. कोई छोटा एमएसएमई वाला थोड़ी कर सकता है इन्वेस्ट. चाइना ने भी जब अपना मैन्युफैक्चरिंग खड़ा किया इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में, अगर मैं आपको एग्जांपल दूं, दे फर्स्ट अलाउड एप्पल टू कम इन देयर, बिल्ड देयर इकोसिस्टम. उसके बाद दे स्टार्टेड एपिंग इट एंड अ स्मॉलर इकोसिस्टम इमर्ज व्हिच टुडे इज एक्चुअली चैलेंजिंग एप्पल. बट इन इंडिया यू डोंट वांट एनी ऑफ इट. तो मैं वही कह रहा हूं, आपने कहा माइनिंग बंद करो, चलो कर दी. कोयला खोदना बंद करो, कर दिया. पेट्रोल निकालना बंद कर दो, गैस एक्सप्लोरेशन बंद करो, कर दी. एमिशंस के लिए मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बंद कर दो, कर दी. फिर करेंगे क्या हम? Is our country going to be a service and consumption based economy? Because that's not going to be enough for an 8% or a 9% sustained growth. So what do? You'll fall back to the 5% threshold. You'll start abusing the prime minister, the GST, the whatever you want to, but that is not how nations work. And एक और चीज है, China from the 78, when Deng Xiaoping opened up China, to I think early 2000s, they also bide their time. This is a very good lesson we need to learn from China, that the world will try to push you down. You have to just keep doing the right thing. And this is what we need to do. But what do we have? this kind of sentiment. And I'm not saying the people doing this are anti-nationals, मैं नहीं कह रहा, but they are implying it themselves. जब वो उन लोगों को इंडोर्स करते हैं जो कहते हैं हाईवे मत बनाओ, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मत बनाओ, माइनिंग मत करो, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेमीकंडक्टर्स की मत करो, भाई फिर तुम एंटी नेशनल नहीं हो तो क्या हो? तुम चाहते ही नहीं हो इंडिया आगे बढ़े. You want us to deal with sweatshops? Sorry, even that won't work because China will outshine you over there because they'll just create sweatshops with robots. What will you do then? No one wants your cheap labor because they have created AI free labor. What will you do then? You know, it's very easy to come on someone's timeline and say, oh, you're a government apologist. Everyone is anti-national as per you. You tell me. If someone is saying that आपकी सोसाइटी के आगे सड़क नहीं बननी चाहिए, लैंप पोस्ट नहीं लगना चाहिए, आप उसको क्या बोलोगे? एक छोटा एग्जांपल लेते हैं. कोई कहता है कि आपकी सोसाइटी तक पानी की पाइपलाइन नहीं डलनी चाहिए, आप हर रोज टैंकर से पानी मंगाओ, आप उसको क्या कहोगे? कोई कहता है अगर आपकी सोसाइटी का ट्रांसफार्मर टूटा हुआ है, उसको टूटा रहने दो, आप अपना जुगाड़ करो, बिजली चुराओ, कुछ भी करो, हमें फर्क नहीं पड़ता, आप उसको क्या कहोगे? That is how we feel about the nation also. This year 2025, the top newspapers of the world, अभी मैंने FT की भी story share करी, are saying this was the year when rare earths dictated geopolitics. And what are the jokers in India doing? Stop mining, stop mining. That is why I'm saying, stop listening to these hyperactive Noida journalists. They'll never make sense. Bhai, it's a low IQ nation. There is no other explanation. The people shouting the most from the Noida studios, they have the highest carbon footprint in the country. Rajdeep's footprint must be greater than 99.9% of the population, and here he's saying religious fervor, green over green. I mean, all nonsensical stuff. And ironically, these are the people who always have these debates that why is our trade deficit against China growing? Why can't we export like China? Nevertheless, coming to the whole topic now. Now, there was a case going on in the Supreme Court since 1985 about the mining in Aravalis. There were
Can I
two
put up an
PIs.
image also? People are showing
Yeah.
this image a lot. ये image दिखाई जा रही है. This image.
Hmm.
This says potential destruction of Aravalis, the 100-meter height cutoff, and its scientific ramifications. Okay, I'm just sharing this image for the benefit because I don't want people to accuse me of not sharing things. I'm just sharing things. So it is what it is. Now, sorry to cut you off. Up to board.
So there were two PIs that were filed years and years ago. एक तो 1985 से चल रही थी. That was MC Mehta versus the Union of India. That was focused on the Haryana mining. And then there was a TV Godavaraman and the Union of India 1995, which was dealing with the broader forest conservation. So when these PIs were being heard and the litigation was going on and on as everything does in India, at some point the question came up that how do you actually define Aravalis? What is the definition of Aravalis? There was no standard definition because Aravalis ka kya hai? They stretch from Delhi to Rajasthan to Haryana to Gujarat. Now, fine, Delhi में किसी भी तरह का माइनिंग अलाउड नहीं है. ठीक है ना, दिल्ली का कोई भी एरिया अगर अरावली में आता है नहीं आता है फर्क नहीं पड़ता, माइनिंग अलाउड नहीं है. बट हरियाणा की डेफिनेशन क्या है, राजस्थान की डेफिनेशन क्या है, गुजरात की डेफिनेशन क्या है? Now, this is the question that came up, and ironically, there was no standard definition that was applicable across the 4 states. There was none. Haryana did not even have a definition. So if you ask someone from a bureaucratic prism, what is Aravalli? क्या ये पहाड़ अरावली है? पता नहीं, क्योंकि डेफिनेशन नहीं है. क्या ये स्लोप अरावली हिल्स में आता है? पता नहीं. क्या ये लैंडफॉर्म है जो दो पहाड़ों के बीच में? इज दिस अरावली? वी डोंट नो. Is this pond an Aravalli range, protected region? We don't know. There was no definition. Rajasthan, meanwhile, had been using a definition since 2006. And that is where the court realized that a committee had to be formed which had to discuss that what is the definition of Aravalli. Now, this happened in 2024. There was no noise, absolutely none. In November 2025, a month ago, a judgment comes out from the Supreme Court. No noise, nothing, no objections, no debates, kuch bhi nahi, no noise. Then suddenly, a week ago, on a Thursday and a Friday, suddenly I'm looking at Save Aravalli, Save Aravalli. नहीं मतलब जैसे Adani and Ambani have given the right to be, to mine 1.44 lakh square kilometers of the entire Aravalli range. And suddenly even I was taken aback कि भाई चल क्या रहा है? And then I started reading up, then I started looking for documents. I had to sort of search across the internet because I wasn't following the Supreme Court case. And then I realized that there was a change in definition. What was the change in definition? That we are now going to adopt the definition that was being used by Rajasthan since 2006, but now that will be used by all the four states. The definition was any landform in the Aravalli districts with an elevation of 100 meters or more above the local relief will include the entire enclosed area, hills, slopes, associated features, regardless of the gradient, the slope gradient, or two or more of such hills within 500 meters of each other. The intervening area will now be constituted as the Aravalli range. So, one, they looked at the elevation. Two, they looked at the entire ecosystem around it, the entire landscape around it. Now, what people suddenly did, they started their campaign saying that any hill under 100 meter is now going to be open to mining. That is where it started becoming a problem. They said our forests are going to be mined, our aquifers are going to be mined. You are going to have complete desertification reaching NCR. And in no time, that campaign just picked up. Within a day, I think it had millions and millions of views. Then, of course, the fact checking began. Everyone said that new mining leases had been given. So I obviously had this question that my tweet is still there from last week. Does anyone have a list of company which are being awarded this mining leases? Because the court judgment clearly said that there are no new mining leases being given. Kisne jawab nahi diya, the abuses began. So, for me, it was like a repeat of 2020, 2021, when I saw my state having this whole farmer protest. That, okay, Adani and Ambani are coming to take all the agricultural land away, the crops are going to be destroyed, farmers are going to be destroyed. Everyone was doing this whole doomsday prophecy, but no one was telling what's going on really. I heard the definition. I said, okay, but the definition says that the landscape around it is also saved now. There is a 500-meter rule also in between two hills. What about that? So if there are two hills of 100 meters each, they're this apart, 500 meters apart. In between, there is a hill 20 meters or 30 meters. That also gets included. So why are you saying that 90% of the Aravalis is gone away? No, that FCI study from 2010 says 90% of the Aravalis are under threat. 90% of the Aravalis are now open for mining. Everything is going to be mined. Everything is, under danger. Okay, I read further on. Now, people said that the definition is very ambiguous. So I further researched about it. Now, this also is a GIS terminology. I had it written down here. It's often called the buffer intersection analysis with perpendicular offset, the way they're going to calculate the landscape between the two hills, or simply buffer and intersect workflow. ये GIS terminology में होता है. तो अब लोगों को प्रॉब्लम ये हो रही थी कि हम अपना कैंपेन चला रहे हैं सेव अरावली सेव अरावली. व्हाई आर यू आस्किंग अस वन, कौन सी कंपनी को लीजेस मिले, क्योंकि उनके पास कोई कंपनी लिस्ट कभी थी ही नहीं. टू, why are you saying this definition will not include 90% of the Aravallis? Because they were not willing to debate on the landforms that were otherwise protected, fell under eco-sensitive zones, or would have been encompassed by this 500-meter definition. And point number three, they were not willing to even acknowledge that this is a Supreme Court judgment, not a bill passed in the parliament. Bhai, I can't even tell you. There was a woman I was sort of getting into a quarrel with on Twitter, and she was saying, revoke the bill, revoke the bill. But which bill? There was absolutely no bill. It was a Supreme Court order. So, at that point, I realized that this was just a mass hysteria, inorganic campaign. And, the interesting thing, it just died out in 3 days. Over, forgotten. Right now, it's only Jairam, Ramesh, and Pavan Khera who are talking about it. No one else on Twitter is even talking about it, or Instagram. It's all just forgotten. So the question we need to ask is, one, who paid for this inorganic campaign? Two, why did the activists suddenly disappear? Three, why did this campaign happen a month after the judgment came out? Four, why did it come out in a week when the parliament was discussing an important nuclear bill? And five, why are people now asking for a blanket ban on mining in a region where there have been studies about critical minerals? There are a lot of layers to this debate.
Mhm. You know what the thing with, and before people get very offended, I really mean it. So please get properly offended about what I'm about to say about the discourse in India. And if you feel personally offended, I really don't care, sir. India is a low income third world country that behaves like a high income first world country.